Kidneys.
The cover is Sports Network.
Welcome in, everyone. SNS Bills Talk with Come On In Bills and the Come On In Sports Network for our first time here. Glad to have you with us. I am Lawrence Foster alongside Dr. Dungan. We are here to talk about all things Buffalo Bills coming in off a win over the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football in Week 3. Dr. D, how are we feeling at 3-0 atop the AFC East?
Dude, I feel great. I mean, we talked last night, and so far the season has gone about as good as it could go. So I'm feeling awesome.
At 3-0, some of the biggest rivals right in the AFC are 1-2, so things looking good in that neck of the woods. But talking about the Bills game against the Dolphins, I don't think it's as easy as everyone thought it was going to be. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be one of those 3-4 touchdown victories, still a double-digit win. But the first thing I want to talk about is the defense. You and I have had issues with that so far this year. They had a real tough time getting off on third down against Miami. Just your thoughts on the defense with well enough out from Thursday to kind of have a couple of thoughts on that.
I mean, my thoughts, the defense still needs work. We can say that, Ed wasn't there, Milano wasn't there, sure. But, an offense that has struggled the first 2 weeks of the season, and you and I knew it. I mean, I think most Bills fans knew it. If any team's going to get their offense right, it's going to be against us. That very, first drive to start the game, granted, I think Tyreek Hill was out of bounds on third down, but of course Sean wasn't going to challenge it. And overall, it just Joey Bosa, man, like that guy has been such a difference maker. Like I think we potentially lose that game if not for the pressure that Joey Bosa puts on, because our front four, front seven, they get next to no pressure. I would argue this wasn't a great game for Trey. Benford didn't do terrible, but it wasn't a great game for him either. But Joey Bosa, I think, is what really saved us with just the pressure he put on, pushing Tua out of the pocket. So the defense definitely still needs work, and hopefully we can, start to get it right against a really inept offense this week.
And you talk about Joey Bosa, the question was for him, can he stay healthy? Can he be on the field? And the Bills said, we got a plan for him. And then he takes the most snaps out of anybody along the defensive line.
Yeah.
The Bills go to a 3-man defensive end rotation, don't even put Solomon out there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, Bosa has been a difference maker. I think we've kind of seen, the Bills fans have kind of been like, man, Ed's not doing much the last, year or so. But I think you see what they lack when he's not there in terms of any interior pressure.
Sure.
So I think for Ed, this is a good sign of, hey, look, I may not get tons of sacks, but look how terrible everyone else is without me there. Greg has been kind of invisible through 3 weeks after his big extension.
Yep.
When you think about it, the extensions aside from Josh and Cook, Shakir has been very quiet this year. Benford, I don't think has been great. Rousseau has been invisible. And then Bernard, aside from that pick, what has he done for 3? So to me, that's a positive sign of it really can only go up from there in terms of what the Bills defense has in store, plus who's coming back. Because the Bills are staring 6-0 in the face with the 3 teams they have coming up, 2 of which are at home, and then the Panthers just shut out Michael Penix and the Falcons. So the Bills are staring 6-0 in the face. Then they have Ogunjobi and Hope coming back, Maxwell Harrison presumably soon. So to me, the Bills are going to hopefully be on the upswing with that all coming to them.
Yeah, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you sort of brought up, those guys, signing extensions in the offseason. And there was one thing with every single one of them that I think we said, and most people said it, what a deal, what a bargain, what a steal. And maybe because we're so entrenched in the Bills, we perhaps overvalue them beyond what the market actually is. And ultimately, maybe they got paid what they were worth, right? I mean, I'm speaking after 3 games, right? I'm in a way I'm ignoring everything from last year, but to this point, I think they're about paid what they're worth. I mean, Cook would be oddly enough, Cook is the one guy who's played phenomenal. What I would argue, well, maybe we could have paid him a little more.
Yep, and to me, Cook, going off on that since you brought him up, I think last year it was more like you could see all 3. I think this year it's really clear that Cook is by far the best running back we have.
Yep.
I think as much as I like Ty and Ray Davis, you can see a big difference just in like the fluidity of how he moves, like how smooth he is, what he's able to do, and it just maybe there hasn't been holes or as many opportunities, but there's a bigger gap this year I feel between Cook and the other two. And I know you were squarely on the trade him for a lot of so like you just gave him props, like he might be underpaid, but 3 weeks in, how do you see that in the Cook situation for Buffalo?
Well, I am not. I'm man enough to say and admit when I was wrong, and say I'm very glad that we did not trade James Cook. I don't think we win the Baltimore game, and I think the Dolphins game is much more challenging without Cook because, as you said, it's just different. He either sees the hole differently. I know he's faster, and he just has that agility to him. But also, if you watch him, it's almost like he has. I think a lot of the really good running backs have it, but like a sixth sense. When someone's getting close, you just see him take that ball and pulls it up tight and covers it up. So I'm not worried about him putting the ball on the ground. He is a threat to take it to the house every time he touches it. He's great out of the backfield. I would argue that James Cook is a top 5 running back in the NFL. So again, I'm glad that we didn't trade him. I was completely wrong, and he's worth every dollar that we're paying him.
Yep, and I want to also bring this up too. You saw this past weekend, like the Browns beating the Packers, like the Panthers who had done nothing, like beating the Falcons. Everyone's like, oh, they're one of those up and coming teams. Denver being 1-2, the Ravens 1-2, the Chiefs 1-2. It's a divisional matchup the Bills played and still won by 10, and everyone says they didn't play their best game. How many teams would take Buffalo's quote-unquote bad game of scoring 30 plus points, winning by double digits? Like you talk about us being entrenched in the Bills. Part of me thinks like we've gotten so spoiled by just like how well we play against almost everybody that this type of game is like, man, like more of. And I'm always a pessimistic person when it comes to the Bills.
No, not you.
But like, when I think about it now that we're far enough removed, it's like it wasn't as bad as I think because like essentially the Bills beat themselves in a lot of the ways.
Yeah.
And any defense will take 3rd and 12. Eventually they're going to figure out a way to get the quarterback down and make stops. They dominated 1st and 2nd down a lot of the game. Their problem was and teams aren't going to do that. So your thoughts on just like, yes, when we were talking again, like, man, this sucks. Like we should be dominating them, but it's a divisional opponent. Their back's against the wall, a real talented offense and a great play caller they have. So just those thoughts about just the Bills' performance and like, was it as bad as we thought it was in the moment?
Honestly, I felt confident the entire game. Like this is one of the few games for which I think part of it is because the Dolphins have played so poorly and just Josh's history against them. I never felt as though we were going to lose the game. Maybe a little bit on that last drive before Bernard picked them off. But like, I felt confident the entire time because frankly, we were the better team. I think, obviously, I just think it comes down to with some of our frustrations with how Joe Brady calls the offense. That at time kills drives. I don't understand, and maybe if we were able to look at the all 22 and we had a better insight or knowledge base into what the defense was doing, but I mean, Josh threw so many passes at or within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. And And I know that's the way offenses are going in the NFL, but like when he wants to uncork it, like that dude puts the ball in these tight windows and on the money. Oftentimes it's his receivers who drop the ball. I mean, Keon had a drop. Kincaid, I believe, had a drop of things that they should catch. So ultimately, I just think that the game it would have been what you had said. It would have been a 2, 3, 4 touchdown game if Joe Brady was a little more aggressive. And I'll just say it again, like I don't know if that's just how he is, where like he doesn't want to risk Josh turning the ball over, for which I wouldn't let that stop you. Or if it's I'm calling plays because this is what the defense is going to give us. I imagine it's a little bit of a little bit of both of that. But I just feel like, man, like we have Josh, we have prime Josh. Let him loose. We went and got Keon for a reason. We got Josh Palmer for a reason. You drafted Kincaid for a reason. You extended Shakir for a reason. Let these guys do something instead of waiting until, we're down 15. All right, Hercules, go after it. I would love to see us do some of that early on. So my thoughts, I thought based on the game plan that was called and the inability of our defense to get key stops against, I would say an average offense. It went about as well as I would have thought, but really, I never really felt as though, we're going to lose.
And average offense, the defensive line's performance is what troubled the most. Of the Miami offensive line was just in shambles in terms of injuries and backups. And now I wonder if it's the case of I think of the NBA like, all right, our star players down, everyone else is taking that extra step up. So, I mean, they're in the NFL. Maybe Miami's offensive line was like, okay, everyone thinks we're just going to get run over. But I think offensive line, I want to go to the Bills. You and I have talked about since the draft, Pause as our replacement for the third offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And through 3 weeks, I think that might be the Bills' strongest draft pick. And the way Knox and Kincaid have kind of been like, ugh, I see a future where Hawes is the guy. Like he's made a couple plays in the passing game down the seam. Look, his blocking, if you've watched any of the clips from the All-22 of that, like he is pancaking people, getting to the second level, sealing things off. And you and I talked about how much more that will offer the Bills if Brady ever decides to open it up.
Mm-hmm.
Running play action off that stuff when we're 3 tight end set. Who's going to cover us? And then if they go light to cover us in the pass, run it. So I'm hoping Brady is setting this stuff up and holding it when he's like, all right, we don't really need this against the Saints or the Dolphins or the Jets. That's the only thing that's giving me hope is like Brady's holding stuff back for when the Chiefs come to town. When we go play Houston and that, like as bad as their offense is, the Houston defense is pretty good. So that's what I'm kind of hoping there. But your thoughts on the offense and its kind of evolution and where it's headed?
I mean, so you mentioned Hawes and his blocking. Now, I am not saying that he is this person that I'm about to mention. I'm not even saying he'll be half the player. But that was one of the things that people do not give Gronkowski enough credit for, is he was a phenomenal blocker. And so it just makes it so, one, you can be in the field 70 to 80% of the time. You're not just a Jimmy Graham-esque, right, where you're only going to be a receiving tight end, or you're not going to be a Mercedes Lewis where you're only a blocking tight end, really. And so I just think I guess to sort of answer your question, I think he really could be a big part of the offense. I mean, frankly, I like him better as the second tight end over Knox. Kincaid, I'm not willing to give up on him yet. I mean, I don't really know what the deal is, whether it's getting open, whether he's in his own head. But I don't believe that you can go from being a sure-handed pass catcher in college to all of a sudden forgetting how to do so in the NFL. I still think he has great hands. I mean, I forget I think it was later in the game where we ran a screen with Kincaid and Josh just sort of rifled that ball to him, and he caught it by the very tips of his fingers and got a first down. The dude can still catch, so I think he'll be able to figure it out. But I definitely can see where, if Hawes continues this play, and we need, say moving on into next season or the season after, where Dawson Knox becomes an expendable asset, just due to the fact that Hawes is a really good blocker. He has a little bit of speed, and as he develops in his route running and pass catching, I think it'll help us a lot. If that answers your question.
And you're right about, like, I think the people who know football like us and people who are presumably watching and listening to this, that's why Gronk is put up where he is by those people. Is he was what a tight end should be.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great pass catcher, obviously, but like you said, he was a mauler in the running game, and he wanted to maul them. Like, that's just his attitude. And you see those, like you said, you can see the aspects of that within Hawes. He's nowhere near as finished of a product as Gronk was coming out. I mean, injury aside, Gronk played at a D1 college and was a top tight end for a reason. If he hadn't had the back injury, he probably would have been much higher coming out. So the Bills have that, and then obviously they have Josh Allen, who I got to point out, Nick Wright had Josh Allen atop Mahomes Mountain for this week's episode.
I did not see that.
Yeah, so he is the king of Mahomes Mountain. And Nick Wright said, which I agree with, like, Josh is doing everything that's this franchise asked of him. Brady's asking him kind of, I don't want to say game manager, but like control the game more, and Josh is doing it. When Brady was asked him, all right, we got to let loose against the Ravens, he let loose for 240 passing yards in one quarter.
Sure.
So whatever the Bills need out of Josh, he's giving them.
Mm-hmm.
So just coming into the season, he was the MVP. Like, everyone's like, what's he going to do? To me, I see Josh, who he got the one monkey off his back. Like, he hasn't won anything. He won the MVP. To me, I think that was freeing to him. Like, he doesn't have to press for that anymore. He can just be who he needs to be. He talked about after the game about he wishes it could open up. He's like, he talked about like just playing the game for the game, like realizing I don't got to do a 40-yard pass right now. We're playing with the lead. So I think he's such at another level mentally and emotionally, and leaders like, and a lot of people saying like that's very rare what we're seeing right now in Buffalo in NFL history of what Josh is doing. So I know you love Josh Allen, but just like, how has that progressed for you this year of what you're seeing out of him, even compared to his MVP year?
I mean, it's in a way, it's exactly what you said, where as a fan, I almost feel the same way in that it's, my quarterback's won an MVP. So no one can ever say, oh, he's never been to the Super Bowl, he's never won an MVP. Yeah, he has. And so it makes me honestly care less about, him getting 40 touchdowns again, or him, throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns a game, or do it. Like, I don't honestly care about his numbers anymore, because he's already sort of reached the individual apex, right? Mm-hmm. He's climbed that mountain. And so it again, for me, it just allows me to watch the games a bit more free, where I'm just not, where I, what, if he throws a pick, so what? If he only, if like the Jets game, yeah, where like he doesn't have a touchdown at all, I don't care. We blew him out. We crushed him. You know what? We crushed him with Josh not scoring a touchdown. And so I bet it is. I bet we're seeing the best version of him, because he doesn't have that anymore. It's not, there's like not that nagging, thing over his shoulder, but well, you've never been to Super Bowl, never won an MVP. And the other thing too is, I think you and I talked about this offline a while ago, but Kyle Brandt did this little segment of guys, how they played after getting married. And every example he gave, it was Mahomes, it was Goff, it was a lot of dudes where like their next season was their best season ever. They either won an MVP, they set career highs in yards or touchdowns, they won a Super Bowl. And he ended it by saying, it isn't as though he's only showing the guys that did awesome and not showing the guys that didn't. He just said, he's like, I couldn't find a guy who got married in the offseason and then played poorly the season after. So obviously we can't know exactly what it is, but we just have this dude who just won an MVP. He just married the love of his life. I mean, every time he talks about Haley, it's like the inverse of him talking about dicks, right? It's love and joy and happiness. And so as a Bills fan, but as a human being, like it's so easy to root for Josh because he is such a good dude. He's so genuine in an era where everything is fake and you don't know what's real. I firmly believe that the Josh Allen you see on television, that is how he is, whether the door's open or the door's closed. And so honestly, all of that being said, I would have loved to have been a fly on the sideline of that Bills game against the Ravens when we're down 15 and 4 minutes left. Because I honestly believe that Josh genuinely believed they were still going to win. That they still had a shot when things were looking dismal, where I will admit my wife and I turned off the television. It's embarrassing to even admit. But he just he believes in, I don't know. I'm gushing over Josh Allen. Yes, I do love Josh Allen. So I will just stop talking about him to say is, yes, he's as free as he's ever looked. And I'm not going to say this is our year, but boy, I think we've got a really good shot this year.
And I'm afraid to say that. Because everybody and their mom is always saying, man, it's lining up for Buffalo this year. And it really does feel like, man, if not this year, how is it going to happen? You look at the schedule, how things are just lining up in terms of the last season in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't sense any of that pressure from Josh or the team, which I think is, as much as I slam McDermott, and I really don't like a lot of the stuff he does, how many teams just have this type of sustains when they keep getting knocked in the teeth when it matters most? Almost every team in history falls back after these heartbreaking, heart-wrenching losses. But year after year, we're right there with a chance again. And the Bills are one of the few teams man, they don't get blown out by Kansas City or the Raiders. They are there. They're 1 or 2 plays away from that. And it just does, and you're right that it just feels like this is it. The Bills have a pretty easy schedule.
But there is a but, though, Lawrence.
We're the Bills.
But our defense.
And that's where I have faith. I think of a few years ago when the Chiefs went young, if you remember that. I think it was the year they traded Tyreek and everything, and they kind of went young with Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. And early in the season, their defense was not the Chiefs' defense we see now. But I think the Andy Reid and the front office there realized we're not playing for September and October. We know where we're going to be. And my just hope is that Beane and McDermott are they're not losing their minds right now because they're we're getting it. You saw Walker make a few big plays as a D tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see what Landon Jackson can do as opposed to what Solomon's providing for the Bills. You got Harrison coming back. You have 2 of their big free agency signed. They signed those guys in free agency with the, hey, we're going to use you and have an impact here. So to me, it's hopefully we're doing all this with a crap defense. So if the Bills can get just to the back, to the middle, maybe top 12, imagine how good things are going to be.
Sure. Man, what an odd time for which you're the optimist and I'm the cynic.
Yeah. I know this is our first time on Come On In Sports Network. We are SNS Bills Talk, but if you followed us on our previous channel, yeah, that's not the roles we play. I am eternally, we're going to lose. Dr. Dungan is eternally, we got this. That's just me. I'm a scar tissue guy. I'm just doing it to protect myself a lot of the times of like the inevitable heartbreak that happens. But moving on to week 4, again, nothing is ever easy. Nothing's ever a gimme, but it seems like this is going to be one of those kind of easy gimme games. The Saints just getting absolutely truck stomped by the Seahawks last week, going into Buffalo, who was essentially coming off a mini bye, right? They're clicking on all cylinders. Spencer Rattler hasn't won a game in the NFL.
That's terrible.
And let's just talk about how do the Saints, I don't even say how do the Saints win. How do the Saints keep it close like Miami did? Like, what is their game plan? What can they do? Or do you think like that's not even really going to be something that even you think about the game being close?
I mean, shoot, granted, we haven't done it this season, I don't think. But historically speaking, our first couple drives of the game, we suck. And we would go 3 and out. And so how do they keep it close? I think they play most of their defense close to the Atlanta scrimmage. I don't think we really have anybody that can, get open deep anyways. I know that's why we signed Josh Palmer, but to this point, I haven't seen it. And so how do they keep it close? I think you start the game where you keep your safeties 12, 15 yards max off the Atlanta scrimmage. You keep a lot of guys in the box. You use your corners and you press our receivers, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to come out. We're going to run, some quick slants, some little wide receiver screens. We're going to do a couple runs with Cook. And I honestly, in a game like this, because this is just how the Bills tend to do it, we rarely, right? Like, we could play Dallas, the worst pass offense or pass defense in the NFL, and we would struggle to pass. Like, I just don't get it. And so I can totally see us going 3 and out the first drive, having to punt the first couple of drives. And so I think that's probably the best the Saints can hope for, is keeping it close early. But I do believe that, we will eventually just pull away.
Yeah, and you talk about like McDermott. You mentioned it before about how McDermott, like whatever you do best, McDermott can take it away. I look at the Saints like, well, what do they do best on offense? I think that Saints defense is proud enough to maybe put up a little bit of a fight, but I just look at the Saints offense and like, man, if the Bills can just not let Alvin Kamara do much of anything, I just can't see Spencer Rattler. But again, like the Bills defense has a tendency of letting. So I mean, if we let Spencer Rattler put up like 250, that's gonna be a real reason for concern.
Yes.
But genuinely, I don't like. This is the one where, God, I thought the same thing about Miami because we always dominate them. I don't see this team competitive.
But that's just it, Lawrence. You can see it. You can see it. You can see a way for which all of a sudden our defensive line is just giving up 5-6 yards at a clip. That because it seems like everyone else can run screens and we can't, that Alvin Kamara gets a screen, he breaks a couple tackles, and we have no speed. Granted, he's not blazing fast anymore, but like
faster than us.
That's the problem. You can see it. And honestly, I think that's likely that is probably the more likely scenario, is that by halftime, we're only up 4, maybe 7 points. And we're just like, what? How is it this close? But historically, when that happens, it like something switches in the second half, and then we end up winning the game by 17 or 21 points. But I can totally see us being within a touchdown of them at halftime.
I think last year when the Bills played the Titans at home against Mason Rudolph, I don't remember whether it was 14 or the Bills were down 10-0 or 14-0.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on right now?
because we just start so slow on offense.
And then, like you said, we ended up winning, I think, by 17. But yeah, and talk about speed. Oh my God, I got to bring this up. When Bernard picked that ball off, could he look any slower running the ball back? I'm like, no wonder he cannot catch anybody if they're not there. Like the dude, like we just signed this guy to an extension, and he looks like he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
You see, like Levante David, who is in his 13 or 14 year, looking younger and smoother and faster than our captain of the defense.
That's why we need Harrison back out there. If for nothing else, he'll be the fastest guy on the field, and for once we'll have somebody who potentially either make up for jumping a route, but it was a double move, or two, catch somebody from behind. Because I have no confidence, whether it's a tight end, a running back, or receiver, that if they get through the linebackers, our safeties are going to have their feet in quicksand and just watch them go by, and then two, nobody will catch them.
Yeah, I think Benford's the only person who could do anything in terms of that. Rapp is slow. Dorian not out on the field enough. But that to me, this shows how little, like, we spent like 2 minutes on the Saints. We're going on to other things. Just like the next few weeks for the Bills on paper, like, man, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, 6-0 should be
Panthers.
Panthers after the bye.
And that's just it, Lawrence. Like, honestly, these next 4 games will tell me all I need to know of whether or not, like, I'm really believing. I'm believing in the Bills, in that we should win. Patriots, I think, will be a Dolphins game. I think we win that game, 7 to 10 points. But the other 3, we should win those games by 14 plus, and it shouldn't be that close. And at least 2 of those, Josh shouldn't be playing really much of the fourth quarter. If we're being totally honest, if we are a top 3 team in the NFL, the reigning MVP, and all the capital that we spent on defense, those 3 games should be, there's levels to this, and we're up here and you're down here.
And I am happy, like, that the bye, and then we had the Panthers, that it's not the Chiefs after the bye, which means Ogunjobi, Michael Ho, and then hopefully Maxwell have that Panthers game to kind of get their feet wet before Kansas City.
Yep.
Because Kansas City's defense is going to give the Bills fits, because that's just what Spags and they do, and them doing. It's like, and it's still Patrick Mahomes. Like, you just, like, he's going to do something that just keeps them in the game against us, whether it's running or some stupid underhand. Like, he always does it against us. So I think having that bye week, then the Panthers, is a big thing, that it's after week 6. So our guys get to go in, get back acclimated, have a game under their belt before jumping into, like, their pretty much like the first playoff atmosphere since the opener. Between the Ravens and Chiefs is like a sandwich of, like, nothingness, kind of.
Yeah. Before we get off and get done, I would like to spend just a couple minutes talking about Kansas City, but
yeah. So let's talk about Kansas City.
So I've seen on social media, sports talk or whatever, people saying, "Oh, Chiefs finally figured out their offense. They finally got something going," and I could not disagree anymore. Okay, sustained success is not having the fastest guy just go that way and you throwing it up and hoping he's able to either draw a PI or the defender leaves him wide open. Like, I get that between Thornton, Worthy, and Brown, they've got 3 of some of the fastest receivers in the NFL. But a 4 verts is not a sustainable offense. I think the Chiefs got big problems. Okay, Mahomes is going to end up getting hurt because they can't protect him. And I mean, I guess to his credit, he's delivered the boom a couple of times on DBs. But I just wonder, man, like, yeah. But that being said, they'll figure it out against us. That's a guarantee. But I just wanted to say that, like, I just I saw, and plus it was against the stinking Giants. Granted, they've got a good front four, but that's it. And so if that's your fixing the offense is like, all right, super fast, dude, go that way. And then Pat just like literally, you saw him like when he booted out and just cocked back and threw it as far as he could. That's not an offense. That's Madden right there.
I was gonna say 4 verts, like that's a Madden staple right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and think about this matchup this week for the Chiefs and Ravens. Somebody's going to be 1-3. Like, who would have thought that 4 weeks into the season, one of those two teams is going to be sitting at 1 win?
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, since we're on the topic, who do you want to win that matchup in terms of how it helps the Bills?
Baltimore. I mean, even if it didn't help the Bills, I want Kansas City to go 1-16. Okay, like, and it's just I'm just so done with it.
You want me to paint a nightmare scenario for you?
You can.
The Bills don't get the 1 seed. Kansas City gets a wild card. The Bills host the Chiefs in the wild card round. How much of a nightmare is that?
And we blow them out? Yeah, okay.
But
no. Yeah, sorry. You're right. Yes, playing
that would be the worst possible thing.
Kansas City in the wild card round would would suck.
Whoever, like, the Chiefs are going to make the AFC is terrible this year in terms, like, if you look at the records.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals are going to fall back from 2-1. Broncos, I think a lot of people overvalued based on last year, but whoever draws the Chiefs as a wild card is going to be like, man, this really blows.
But I'm still,
too.
Even if Kansas City sits at 1-3, I'm not counting them out for when, because the thing is, unlike Brandon Beane, like, Veach is their GM.
Yeah,
I believe he would go out and say, you know what, we need somebody. Like, we need whomever, right? He would go and get somebody to help fix that offense. And so, given the fact that Baltimore's defense has given up 40 plus points.
Yeah.
Because last night they lost by what?
7, I think it ended up being
40 something, I think.
30, 31, something like that.
Yeah. So they've given up 40 points twice already. And so I think this is a game for Kansas City. It's at home against a defense that, frankly, sucks, right?
Yeah.
Like, giving a ton of yards and a ton of points. So if Kansas City can't put up points against this defense, then I think you're going to see them go and make moves. So I am not counting Kansas City out at all for winning the division, because one, they've still got Mahomes and they've still shown that they can right the ship, and two, Justin Herbert has shown the exact opposite. Right? Like, they've lost. I mean, I think like they're number one in like losing games for which they were, at some point in that game they were ahead. So, until it's 3 weeks left in the season and the Chargers have a 4-game lead, I'm not counting out Kansas City for sure. Yeah, and
that's like last week. 2 weeks ago when the Chiefs played the Eagles, and on the Come On In Sports NFL pre-show, as the NFL turns, we did our picks, and I picked the Chiefs, and I literally said, like, I have no X's and O's reason. I have no sound all football. Like, it was like, it's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'm like, I just can't see them doing that. I think that's kind of what you're saying, is like, I can't picture that team, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, not being in the playoffs, not coming back and being a force.
Mm-hmm.
But every dynasty also has its fallbacks. So, like, you think about, like, when Brady lost like a few playoff games in a row, of like, he didn't win a playoff game for a few years with the Pats. It's like, is this the start of that for them? And just how crazy that would be to think of them like that. But
great.
Yeah, great. And to me, like, right now, the Colts and Chargers are the only 2 undefeateds left in the conference other than us.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 6 undefeated teams left in the NFL, period, through 3 weeks, which is, again, I think just speaks to the parity of the NFL. And I think we'll close with this of not having the Bills play Sunday was nice. I could just watch and enjoy football. And then watching Lamar, there is a really big gap, I think, between Josh, Lamar, when healthy, Burrow, and even like a guy like Herbert. I don't think he's near that level yet. So Josh, Burrow, Mahomes, and Lamar, and there's such a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more the reason why there's parity is that there's a really big difference between the have and have-nots at the quarterback at this point.
Sure. Yeah, no, 100%. Now, I would say that I don't think Jared Goff gets enough love. That dude made some excellent throws last night, and he has the last 3 or 4 years, right? I mean, even when he was with the Rams, I'm not saying he's at the caliber of those guys, but I think he's in that tier just below. But then you've got everybody else, right? And it is just, as you said, to watch, right? And granted, we have, right, the pre-Josh Bills, that was us. So it's like, I'm not, I very much know what it's like to go into a game and know you have an inept offense, but a good defense, and you're just like, all right, maybe we can get lucky, right? Just hoping for like luck, because the skill is not there.
Yeah.
But it's never felt like this, right? Where there's just a couple of dudes that are just otherworldly. And then there's 25 guys that are just like, these are not, you're only starting because there's nobody else. Yeah. Right. And there's no hope. And I'm with you. It's at times watching, like, it's not like watching college football, but it almost feels like, okay, there's a handful of really good quarterbacks in college football and a handful of like really adept, solid offenses. And then you've got everybody else for which you never really know what you're going to get. Right. I mean, you take Russell Wilson. In one hand, he's still throwing the rainbow ball against Dallas and looking awesome. But then the next week, he looks like absolute garbage, and now he's getting benched for a rookie. And so, I couldn't agree more. Like, I'm very grateful to have Josh. I'm sure Baltimore fans, Chiefs fans, Bengals fans are all grateful to have and even Herbert. I think Herbert is a really good quarterback too. Are all grateful to have who they have at the helm, because you look across the NFL and you're just like, man, I'm glad I don't have that guy.
And the problem is a lot of teams, like the way the quarterback market, you got to pay. Like Tua's going to make as much as Josh the next 4 years. That's insane. And the problem for the NFL is these guys who are like 3-4 years in, like Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, guys that they kind of thought were going to be that, all right, here comes the next group. They're not becoming the next group.
No.
In reality, it's the retreads who are the ones like Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold's doing really well in Seattle now. So it's almost like these retreads are more prominent than like the 3rd to 4th year guys that you would expect.
Yes.
Making that leap.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think with those retreads, it comes down to like where I believe all of them sort of had a very consistent theme where like they were thrust into the starting light as a rookie really quickly. And that's just not a winning formula, right? Like very few can do it. I mean, CJ Stroud did it kind of, but now it's just, for which talk about like those are the fans I feel the worst for. Yeah. Like the hope Houston had of we're back, they're great defense. What? He sucks. But I just think that's ultimately what it is like they're better as you said, a retread, because they were then given that time to sit and to learn and to study and have the games slow down for them. And so I just feel like that's frankly, like a big part of the problem that because of the early success that CJ Stroud has had, that Daniel Jones has had, that Bo that like guys them and then recently before has had, there's no patience. Like we have no patience. Can you imagine? Right? Like if you look at the numbers of Brady and Big Ben and Drew Brees and like these like literally the best quarterbacks ever in their first 3 to 5 seasons, they would have been benched and they would have been traded or cut. Like they would have never made it in today's NFL. So frankly, we're getting off at a bit of a tangent, but like that, I think is the biggest issue is the lack of patience.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have the structure to just let a guy develop. I mean, I think Jordan Love is probably the best, but also last example of a guy who sat for 3 seasons. And then in year 4, he came off and here we go. Packers are in a great spot because they planned ahead and they were patient. And this, I guess this is what I'll stop talking on is the fact that that's what I really hope we do, of like, because Josh seems like he loves the Bills and he would say, hey man, like when I'm X year, like I'm done.
Yeah.
And so just having that conversation, like, all right, Josh, well, then we're going to draft a couple of a first-round quarterback, an early second-round quarterback, and have them sort of sit and learn behind you for the next 3 years. That, I think, is what builds success.
Yeah, I love that. And people forget Patrick Mahomes sat his entire rookie year aside from that last game of the year where he started against Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about how could somebody like Anthony Richardson have benefited from sitting behind a veteran instead of just thrown out there.
Yeah.
Like he had like guys who start like 8 games in the college, they need time to season. And the Packers, like you said, they were smart, they were patient, but they've done that a few times. And I think the only reason they can is because they're the only franchise set up the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that owner who's like, man, I can't go through 2 years of this. I think if the Bills hadn't have gotten the playoff monkey off their back with Tyrod, I don't know if they would have had the patience with Josh, be like, all right, like he's too wild.
Can you imagine?
Oh God, no.
Ugh.
Thankfully, we don't have to.
No, don't have to.
But that's a good way to close it here on our inaugural episode of SNS Bills Talk here on the Come On In Sports Network. We appreciate you all hanging out with us. We're near double digits for a lot of the show, so at least on YouTube. We appreciate you all for hanging out. Next time if you're here, drop us a follow, drop us a like, throw a comment into the chat. We'll get going on any questions you might have. But for Dr. Duncan, I am Lawrence Bills, closing things out as Josh Allen always does by saying,